Hello, welcome to my review of the Reisong A10 tube amplifier. It's a 6-watt amplifier into 4 or 8 ohms. So let's get into it. First of all, here on the front we have a simple power on and off switch and a volume knob. So it is an integrated amplifier basically in its most bare-bone form. You can switch between 2 channels, and I will show you how to do that later. It comes equipped with a 6N2J tube and a EL34 tube from Vane, and the rectifier tube, yes, it's full tube rectified as well. It's a 5Z4 PJ tube. So let's get into the back. So here we have the back. Over here we have a simple Euro type plug. We have binding posts for 8 and 4 ohms. So here you have ground, and that's for the right channel, and this is for the left channel. Here you have your 2 inputs. So you have a left channel, right channel for a CD player, they say, and an aux. And you can switch between those 2. You can obviously put any RCA in here that you'd like. So before we get into this, I'd like to address a safety aspect of this adventure and review. If you are not qualified in any way, shape or form, or do not feel comfortable with sticking your hand in a piece of electronics, don't do this. Don't do it. I'm gonna talk about modification that I did to the circuit of this thing, and when you're not careful, you can get shocked with 400 volts of direct current, and that is a lethal amount by a long shot. So be careful. I'm not responsible if you shock yourself or hurt yourself or die in any way, shape or form because you saw some guy on the internet do something. So please be careful. It's not hard, you just have to be careful. Make sure that every capacitor in here is drained before you do anything. And if you don't know how to drain a capacitor, maybe you shouldn't do this. So, after saying that, let's get into the mods. Here I have the original circuit of the A10 amplifier. Here you have your 6N2J tube, and here you have your EL34 tube. As it's set up from the factory, it's an ultra-linear design with a bypass cap, which is pretty standard, and a coupling capacitor here. If you want to know what these things do, then please look up the YouTube channel of Blue Glow Electronics. Shout out to him. So here you have what I did to the circuit so far on the amplifier side of things. So I bypassed the original 0.22 microfarads farad capacitor with a 0.1 microfarad copper foil capacitor. These things are about 15 bucks each, and they are, dare I say, a must to get most out of this amplifier. This orange thing here beneath here is the original capacitor. It's some generic weird capacitor that's not that great. The components in here are not that great, but you can do a lot about that. That's why we have mods. So first mod, 0.1 microfarad bypass cap. Also this will increase a bit of bass output, since that's the biggest problem of this thing, but we'll talk about that later. Next mod, bypass cap on here. Don't watch the value, it's one that I had laying around. I had both of these laying around from an old crossover. So here I have a 1.8 microfarad bypass cap that does help. It doesn't do as much as this. This thing makes sure that your soundstage is black, that there is pretty much no noise in between notes that's not supposed to be there. If there is not supposed to be sound, this will make sure that there's no sound, pretty much. This is a pretty high grade part. This is 0.1, this is 1.8, and this one's bigger. So this that in capacitor terms, that means quality. Then next up, you can barely see it inside the box, so I'm just gonna point to it on the schematic. I switched this thing to a true triode mode instead of an ultralinear design. I do plan on making a switch so I can switch between the two, because ultralinear does have a tad bit more power, but 6 watts, not that much to start with anyhow. So losing about a watt really doesn't mean that much in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, triode, it just makes everything sounds a tad bit sweeter, a bit more relaxed, a bit less harsh. Dare I say more musical, even though I hate the term, since it's not really quantifiable. It does help. Here you have the excess of the ultralinear wire that came from the transformer. So let's talk about tubes and what that does to sound. The great part of owning a tube amplifier is that you can switch tubes, and tubes affect the sound in a certain way. Every tube has its own flavor, even though it's the same type of tube. In this case it's an EL34. They can change the sound of the thing significantly, and we'll talk about that now. So originally it does come with a Pavane tube. Let me get that into focus a bit. This is the original tube, and when you start out, this thing is good enough. It will show you all the different things you do inside. Will definitely show you all the little tweaks you do inside the circuit. It will showcase to almost its entirety, and it is a great recommendation to just keep the tubes in when you start. Really get these things warmed up. They will smell a bit. If you don't want the smell, make sure you clean them when you get them out of the box, so you do get them as a loose part inside the little box when you order the amplifier. So you can please clean them before you do, because otherwise they will smell a bit like grease, because all these things are greased for some reason. Original tube, good enough, but we're here in audio, and when is good enough? Really, you always want more. So I ordered 2 different types of tubes. I've ordered the Mullard and I've ordered the Tongsols. These are both made in Russia, and let's talk about them, because these two are basically the top end of EL34 tubes that you can buy new. They make a better version of this one that is really expensive. I haven't tried that yet, because those things are like 450 euros a set. So 2 tubes 450 quid. I'm not gonna do that at any point in my life, really. At least not right now. So, out of these two, let's start with the Mullard, because those are the ones that I tried first. They're good. They do not really have as much bass as people would like you to believe when you read reviews of these things on the internet. I bought them basically because this thing does not have a lot of punch, and I wanted a bit more punch, so everybody said get the Mullards. They did that, and they were definitely better overall tube than the stock tube. But when you have 50 bucks to spend on a set of tubes, get these. The tongue soles in this amplifier, in this setup, really beat out the Mullards. They have even more bass, and they do not give up on any other part of the spectrum. They're more revealing, they have heavier bass, they have more kick. The overall sound is more lush. It's just a better tube. Both of these things cost about 45 to 50 a set. These ones were about 50 cents more expensive for the set than these when I bought them from where I bought them. So if anyone's looking for a set of Mullard tubes, I have a pair for sale. So overall conclusion, when you get this thing will kill a lot of amplifiers for the money if you have the right speakers for them. Pairing speakers with this thing is hard. You either have to listen in a very close proximity, so dare I say near field listening, as in studio monitor setup, which will work and you will have a lot of fun with this. Or you need high sensitivity speakers. I recommend 90 plus, or, and when I say plus, I mean 95 if you can. I have a set of Lee Audios, which I will review in the future, that are damn near 100 dB sensitive at 1 watt. You really need speakers that are sensitive with this thing to get anywhere near the volumes you need to listen to classical music, for example. I barely listen to classical music because my amplifier really doesn't do it that well unless I pair it with speakers that don't do classical that well. So compressed music, like pop and everything, will sound awesome on these with 90 dB speakers. When you have Clips has a model, the RP500Ms, I believe they're like 92, 93 true sensitivity. I haven't listened to this amplifier with those speakers, but just as an example, those are pretty sensitive. Personally, I listened with a homemade set of full range Mark Audios. They work fine. Listening distance is about 2 meters, and you can put out some pretty big values. I never listen to the music with more than half a volt RMS on them, really. And when I listen really loud, it's usually very compressed music, so you do not need the headroom that much. So speaker pairing is hard, but when you find the right speakers with this thing, it's really it's a good amp. What you buy this thing for basically is mid-range. Vocals, guitars, woodwind, like basically every instrument that is in the lower to upper mid, like lower mid-range, this thing will represent it so well. It's not even funny, to be honest. They will kick ass. Like, they truly will kick ass on this amplifier. One of my favorite albums is Los Angeles from Rosalia, and it's a Latin folk, I believe, is the original style of music. It's an awesome album with lots of great guitar, and it just showcases it so well. I've had a real guitar at the same spot in the listening position in the soundstage as the album plays it, and the album showcases. This thing will make the guitar sound more beautiful than a real guitar for some apparent reason. I don't know why. It just sounds awesome. So when you buy this thing, expect mid-range. Top end, with the mods, the top end is really revealing, especially with the tongue soles, and it sounds spacious. Like, the upper ranges, the top few octaves, really contribute to soundstage. This thing does soundstage really well, especially with the mods. You do need the mods to get this thing to image well, to image to its true potential. So imaging, high end, sure, yeah, it does that. Low end is its biggest drawback. As I said, I bought the mullards because I wanted more bass, because this thing really does not have that much kick to it. If you're gonna use this, please use a sub to help with the bottom end. It's really needed. It really does help. Any more notes? Yeah, for me, future upgrades, I'm gonna get rid of the 6N2Js for 12AX7s. I'm just waiting on an adapter, because, well, this is a 6-volt, and you need to rewire some things to get this thing to do 12AX7s. I didn't want to rewire this entire thing on the inside, so I just bought a pair of adapters for $7 each, I believe, so they're not that expensive. I'm still waiting on those, and I do hope that that will bring me even closer with this amplifier and give me even better results. So this thing, as you see it right here, including the 12AX7s that are gonna get in there, I do already have them here near me, but there is about €100 worth of tubes in here, about 60 or 70 euros worth of parts, capacitors. I do plan on changing volume knobs. I do plan on changing the inputs of this thing to get a bit better results from that. So I will keep you posted on that. Again, this thing is the tube amplifier to buy when you want to start out modding amplifiers. Again, please do so only if you know what you're doing when it comes to safety surrounding electricity. So with that, I'd like to thank you. Comment, rate, and subscribe, as they used to say. See you in another video.